Hi everyone, I'm Chris, welcome back. Today I want to talk about something that's probably a bit more relevant to the newer players out there, maybe guys who are looking at Airsoft, interested in it, haven't tried it yet, or maybe they've done a couple of games, maybe rented the gun and they're thinking about buying the first one. Now I'm not going to go into the actual law with regards to what you can and can't buy in whatever country you're in, or specifically in the UK we have certain requirements before you can purchase a replica firearm. That's a whole different video really, and it's also going to vary. If you're in the States, there's certain requirements, different laws in different parts of the US, different stuff to the UK. Get yourself on a forum and find out from people that live in the same place as you do what the laws are that are relevant to you. But that stuff aside, I'm going to talk about a question I see that comes up on forums all the time. Always people asking, should I get a sniper rifle as my first airsoft gun? So many times people asking this, always coming up from all different types of people. The quick answer is, and this is not just me saying this, this is generally, this is the advice that's given by pretty much anyone who's been into airsoft for a while. The quick answer is no, it's not a good idea. So I'm going to go into a little bit of an explanation as to why it's not actually a good idea. So if you are looking at, if you're thinking maybe you do want to go for a sniper type rifle, i.e. one of these spring powered bolt action type guns for your first gun, you're probably looking at something very much like this one here. This is an old gun I've had for years. It's a Chinese clone of the Maruzen Type 96. It looks a little bit like an L96. There's also a lot of clones out there of the Tokyo Marui VSR 10s. Fairly similar in the way they operate overall. First thing to consider, does your sight you're going to skirmish at allow these particular guns that have the higher FPS limit? They're probably going to have a stronger spring on the inside, and the muzzle velocity of the BB is going to be higher than people running electric standard type airsoft guns. So does your sight allow that in the first place? Is a weapon like this going to work at your site? If it's a CQB place, they're not going to allow it, and even if they did, do you want to be running around indoors with a barrel this long? I don't think you do. It's not going to work, especially with regards to a couple of other topics we're going to cover in a second. So those are the first things. Is it allowed? Is it functional? Another key point, and this is probably the main thing to consider, is the rate of fire. One of these things does not fire quickly. I'll show you quickly about the maximum rate of fire you can attain. Now, as you can see, the actual number of BBs I shot in that time was not particularly high. Bearing in mind that in that particular scenario, all I was doing was very quickly getting my eye down to the optic and just getting some very basic sight picture. If you're actually in game and you actually want to try and hit people with the BBs that you're firing, you're going to need to stop for a second after each time you fired a shot. You're going to need to fire, recock, maybe have a scan around, see what's going on. If you're moving on to a different target or whatever, you need to stop, take a second or two to get that sight picture back, then fire again, and then recock. So by comparison, like I say, slow rate of fire. Now let's look at the type of gun that most of the people who are going to be playing against are going to be using. AEG, auto electric gun. There's a gearbox inside here, battery somewhere. You flick the safety off. Straight away, even in semi-automatic, and that's me pulling the trigger slowly, you can fire a lot quicker. I mean, just in semi-auto, you can fire this quickly. And that's not even using full auto. If I switch it to the full auto mode, think how many BBs you can put down range using one of these. versus that bolt action. Now that's only just part of the issue, realistically. If we go back to the bolt action, and we look at the magazines, the average magazine is something like this here. Holds around 25 BBs usually. All those guys you're playing against with AEGs, they're going to be grabbing magazines something like this. These are cheap, they weigh very little, and this one alone holds 120. You load up a gun and there you go. You've got your full auto mode, and they can spray a large amount of BBs in a very small amount of time, and that's just a mid-capacity magazine. Look at the high-capacity magazines, you could have anywhere from 300, 450, even 600 on certain types of AEGs. They're going to be able to put down so many more rounds in such a shorter amount of time compared to your bolt action rifle. You're just going to be totally outmatched. Now let's look at the reloads. We'll start with the AEG this time. Straight away, let's say, for the sake of argument, you've got that high capacity magazine. We'll go with a mid cap in this example because that's what I've got here. Mid cap mag, fit to the gun, easy as that. 120 BBs, and that's, you know, you can get bigger mid cap magazines. No winding as you need to do with a high cap. You could literally flick that safety off, pull the trigger, just hold the trigger down in full auto and blast over 100 BBs down range without even having to think about it. Take a couple of seconds. When that magazine does run empty and you're just firing air downrange, you drop that magazine, grab another one, straight in, and there's another 120, easy as that. And when that one runs out, drop it, another 120. Now, if we go back to bolt action, you've got your 25 BBs in the magazine. You load them up here. It's not the easiest thing in the world to load these. You fire, eventually, after a while, you manage to fire off your 25 shots. Then it comes to reloading, which, you know, especially if you do actually work the action of the rifle as quickly as you can, a magazine of 25 will last you not very long. Then it comes to reload, pop that mag out, and you've got to fit this box into this weird thing up here. It's just not as quick or easy. Maybe with practice, if you only practice with this and didn't practice with an AEG, maybe this could be quicker, but realistically, not really. When you take into account that this is generally slower to reload, and you're only putting a magazine with something in the region of a quarter of the capacity into it, things just don't really add up. Especially when, as I say, you're going up against those guys with the auto electric guns, large magazines, high rates of fire. What people are going to be thinking, and the reason they look at these bolt action rifles, they think, but I've got the range on those guys, I can shoot further, more accurately. Not with one of these types of rifles. Even if you went for the Tokyo Marui or a Maruzen original, which are quite expensive, even those base guns, their FPS levels on the original guns that these are clones from, they shoot a lot weaker. There's something, they're usually in the region of about 320, you know, sort of your average AEG in the UK anyway. You're not going to have any more range with these, really, you know, than the AEGs have. Not in the stock form. When you look at these clone guns, which is, you know, what we're covering in this video, because so many people look at these because they're cheap. You know, if you're starting, you probably don't want to spend a lot of money on a gun, so you look at one of these, it's maybe 150 quid-ish without an optic. And you think, oh, that seems pretty appealing, because for that small amount of money, I'll be able to outrange these guys. I'll be able to get, you know, in a nice hidden sniper position, and before they're even in the range where their guns can hit me, I can already hit them. Sadly not usually anyway. You can get lucky sometimes with these clone rifles. Sometimes they will shoot straight a long way. Chances are they won't. end of the day, the quality control in the factories that produce these things, it's not really a high priority. These Chinese factories, they just want to churn out as much, as much product as they possibly can in the shortest amount of time. They're not really concerned. It doesn't affect them if at the end of the day you pick it up out of the box, you load up, you take your first shot, and it goes way off to the side somewhere, which is highly likely to happen. They're not really going to care about putting this thing together in a precise manner. So when you consider you can get some quite good quality AEGs that are probably put together with a bit more care and attention for a similar price to one of these, again, it's just really not adding up. Looking a bit more into the price side of things, like I say, I'm not sure exactly what one of these would cost nowadays. I've had this old thing for years. It was just a sort of curiosity. I just wanted to see what they were like. But to get a half decent optic, that's, it's gonna, when you consider the base rifle, you could get a decent G&G combat machine for possibly less money than the rifle without an optic. Then you've got to buy an optic, and for some reason a lot of people think you need to buy one of the bipods that goes on here, so the cost's even higher. For that price you could have got your G&G combat machine or an ICS sport line or something like that. You could have bought some magazines, a battery, a LiPo battery or two, a decent charger. Cost wise, again, we've already, like I say, we've covered FPS limits, rate of fire, maneuverability on the field, reloading, magazine capacity. Nothing adds up with these guns as a first rifle for use in airsoft. Neither does the price. If you buy an AEG, you will basically, even if you only spend 160 quid, say, you buy a G&G combat machine, you will be pretty much level on the playing field with everyone else, especially if you're playing CQB, because if you're only shooting at people 20 meters away, it doesn't matter if the guy has spent £1,000 putting the very highest quality upgrades, a new hop unit, rubber, tight ball barrel. It's not going to matter. Your gun will shoot at that range just as well as his does, basically. Woodland, there may be a slight difference, but it's slight. Most people just buy a gun and they just use it. There'll be a few guys at Woodland sites who spend millions of pounds upgrading their guns, but you know what? Your 150 quid gun is going to have the same range and accuracy as 90% of the other players. It's not really a concern. You're not going to be outgunned if you buy a simple basic AEG. You buy one of these things, you will be outgunned. You'll be trying to fire quickly. When they're spraying full auto, suppressing you and all your teammates, you'll be trying to maneuver this massive unwieldy thing over bits of cover. And you're probably going to get hit before you ever even manage to take a shot an awful lot of the time. The accuracy out of the box is not particularly likely to be very high, neither is the range. I mean, honestly, you could be really unlucky and get one that, literally just as soon as the BB leaves the barrel, it just lobs off to the side somewhere, up, down, could go anywhere. Ammo's more expensive. You're going to need to run at least a 0.3 gram BB in one of these clone guns, because they shoot something in the region of 450 to 500 FPS using a 0.2. You need to run at least a 0.3 minimum, preferably slightly higher. Those BBs are harder to find, certainly in good quality and in quantity, and they're more expensive. With your basic AEG, you can just buy 0.2s, which are common as muck, 10 a penny, literally. There is no sense, either effectiveness-wise, financially, tactically, in any manner that you could possibly judge an airsoft weapon. There is no reason to buy one of these first. It's just a bad move all round. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully that's given you guys some points to think about. I encourage you to take the advice on board. This isn't just my advice either. This isn't just my opinions. This is the opinions of many, many, many people, and the experiences based on a whole lot of years combined playing airsoft. This is what pretty much everyone's going to recommend. I'm just putting it here in the format of this video for you. So I hope that was useful for you guys. If you want to see more videos on the channel, check out the Facebook page, links in the description below. I always put new uploads on there the second they go on here, if you're the type of person that checks Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate everyone watching, appreciate all the thumbs up, all the subs, all that good stuff, shares, whatever. Helps me keep making videos. So thanks again, guys. See you next time.